Hey, I'd like to welcome everybody to today's Fuel for Thought webinar. My name is Matt Henderson. I'm one of your hosts today for the webinar, and we're pleased to have you here. And just like to remind anybody, if you do have any questions, to please submit those in the Q&A pod or the chat pod at the bottom of your screen. And also, if you would like to put in the chat pod who you're with, or if you have an idea for the tech showcase, that can kind of help us tailor the conversation for today. So today we're pleased to have with us Kathryn Klaber, who's a managing partner for the Klaber Group. I think Katie's a perfect person for this webinar as we're going to talk about the tech showcase, and part of Katie's experience, I guess, is starting the Marcellus Shale Coalition many years ago. And I say one of the highlights of the annual conference is this technology showcase. We believe it's the 13th year for it, and it's been a highlight since inception of the showcase of the conference, and it still is today. And we've seen a lot of great presentations over the years through that, and I know Katie's helped with a lot of these companies go through that. So again, Katie, thanks for being here today. Looking forward to hearing what you have to say and engaging in the conversation. So thank you.
Thanks, you, Matt. You can hear me okay?
Yes, we're good.
Great. Well, yeah, I thought you were going to say legacy, which was going to make me feel really old about the showcase. But no, seriously, it is the technology showcase of the Marcellus Shale Coalition's annual conference is, has been around since the inception of the organization. And it really came about because of all the innovators that were out there wanting to be part of in those early days of the Marcellus development. And we wanted to make sure to give those companies a forum, in front of the oil and gas companies for, their own business development, but also to advance innovation. And really nothing's changed. There's been a lot of innovation, but there's always room for more. And that's what we'll be really focused on today. And the idea is to give those of you on the webinar now, and we are recording this for future use, give you kind of a roadmap to help you be successful if you're considering participating in this. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we'll go through, the basics of what is this technology showcase, what is the value for the time, your valuable time to apply or participate in that. How to think about being strategic, and we'll give you some additional resources. So to kick it off, at the annual conference of the Marcellus Shale Coalition called the Shale Insight Conference, there's been for the 13 years of the conference a section on the agenda. This year it happens to be on September 25th, 3:15 to 4:40 in the afternoon. So really a key time in the conference, late afternoon on the first of 2 days. And it's a time for companies to present, to essentially do a pitch, for their technology to decision makers and others in the industry. It's a competitive process to get into that setting, but that in and of itself is a very valuable opportunity. That takes some preparation for those that are selected to present. You really have to whittle down what your company does and how it is important for the oil and gas industry and your audience into an 8-minute presentation. And doing something in 8 minutes is a lot harder than doing something in 80 minutes. So really have to be strategic about what you want to get across. And we'll talk later in the presentation, though, but we've got resources. The Shale Power Project is here to help you be successful at that. It's up to 6 applicants will be selected. So, historically, there's been, dozens and dozens of applicants, of which a committee of the Marcellus Shale Coalition's Research Collaborative, does a process to evaluate which of the applications, are timely and at the right level of their development to be featured at the conference. Over the years, there's been probably as many as 100 companies. If you add, we started out with maybe a few more than the 6 But over time, that's become a part of a lot of different companies have had the opportunity to be featured in front of the industry. And there have been some real success stories of just those connections that get made where someone in the audience says, wow, I really need this right now. It's not a guarantee for sure, but it's a very effective way to get in front of the industry. And during that period, going to the conference is gratis if you've been chosen to be a presenter at the technology showcase. And just being a part of that session has a lot of value. So some of the benefits to the company, as I mentioned, access to potential customers and really understanding what that customer wants and needs. You get feedback immediately from the Q&A and, just from being at the conference. Certainly exposure. You will show up in all the, the agendas, the online app agenda, and, it's in the Marcellus Shale Coalition's best interest to feature the companies that are getting exposure in their tech showcase. I mean, it shows that the industry is working with innovators, and especially in the case of the Shale Power project, we're looking at working with innovators who are from this region. Let's admit it. Sometimes when you have a deadline, it gets you to pull your materials together. But also, the deadlines that are associated with this application, they're real quick. I mean, there's a process that was put in place, 13 years ago, and you'll hear back pretty quickly from the work that you do. And then we talked about the networking. So, what I'm going to walk through now, it's available on the Marcellus Shale Coalition's Shale Insight Conference website, very easy to find, and we'll have a link here at the end of the presentation. But what I'm kind of giving you is a feel for what are the elements of that application and how to think about, making the most of, very few words that you're given. And I think a lot of that's to make sure that the reviewers can get through a number of applications. So, the first question to really ask is, does the technology bring value to the shale industry? And can you compellingly describe that in less than 200 words? This is not a time to do an in-depth analysis. It's really at that elevator pitch level. What are you bringing that is worth the attention and time of one or more components of the shale industry? And specifically listed in the application are the audiences or the customers. It could be all of these, but be careful if you're thinking that it's some real small piece and it's under other. That's probably going to get less attention than if the customer, the target of your new technology is one of these, either the exploration for resources, the production, somewhere in the pipeline midstream segment. If it's got an environmental benefit that could apply across all the operations of the industry. Utilization really means, is it a way that enhances the use of natural gas and natural gas liquids, something that is downstream, that is demanding. So we've had in the last few years some pretty exciting applicants on using natural gas to either create hydrogen or in transportation or other applications. Every year it's interesting to see what are the very timely topics, and those tend to get more attention because they are front of mind for the industry. Matt Henderson and I, had a good exchange with our friends at the Marcellus Shale Coalition and Lauren Anderson there, and talked with him about what he's seeing in the work of the industry's working committees and otherwise. And it really resonated with what we see in our own work in the industry. these are some of the timely topics. Rare earth minerals from produced water. That's been talked about for well over a decade now. However, I think what's happening is both the demand of those rare earth minerals for battery technology has increased. The geopolitical impacts of producing those domestically instead of from overseas sources, as well as a Department of Energy report that really showcased how those rare earth minerals, the quantities just in the Marcellus in the southwestern part of Pennsylvania and the northeastern part of Pennsylvania alone was enough to meet a huge amount of demand from current battery development. Well plugging, which has always been a very important issue for the industry. Once a well, and historically it's been mostly the conventional, more shallow wells. But because of a lot of federal funding, we're seeing an uptick in the ability to plug abandoned wells and others because the states have more funding than they've had before from the federal government. So well plugging technologies, how to maybe do that better, faster, with new approaches, and in particular, the state agency has been demanding that companies declare that they have gotten to the base, the bottom of the well, and that's a pain for the industry right now, and something that's important for the technology showcase applicants to think about. Anything that's giving problems to the industry is a really good candidate for a technical solution. As for the last few years, given the uptick in emissions monitoring and quantification, historically, there's been very not a lot of challenges on the air emissions side, given the low emissions rates of criteria pollutants. However, with the onset of new rules for greenhouse gas emissions, there's been a real uptick in the need to monitor and quantify. So that's still on the list this year. That issue hasn't gone away. And I would say only growing is the data management. There's so much information that's coming at the industry. And if a company can come with an even better data management AI solution, which, by the way, what's not on this list that might be very helpful, the AI is incredibly important to the oil and gas industry, given how much of the resources needed to generate the electricity to drive those data centers. And then I put here another handful of bullets, which are issues that have been around, as they well should be, for a long time, and obviously are also, welcome topics for the tech showcase. Safety, water management, optimizing the resource, both finding, determining how much natural gas and oil and natural gas liquids are present the whole way through, extracting it at the maximum efficiencies. Inspections technologies, that's inspecting pipelines, other assurances that are important, both internal to companies, but then also to stakeholders like regulators and and the general public. And then there's always biological issues that are really interesting when those come through the technology showcase. How to detect, manage threatened and endangered species when new builds are going on. There's certainly challenges associated with non-native invasive species that need to be managed as well. So this is just a sampling, by no means exhaustive, but wanted to kind of spur some creative thinking on on some of the topics that have received maybe extra attention over the years. So when you're doing the application, there's a question that specifically asks about technology maturity. And the idea there is to, not come with a presentation for a whole bunch of conceptual ideas that aren't yet, ready for deployment. It's not unheard of to have conceptual technologies be featured in the showcase, but I think it's important for the evaluators to know, where really is this technology in terms of its development. And where will it be deployed? And that also helps understand, quickly what this technology is. There's a question that I think is really important to leverage and do well on, which is understanding the competition for this technology. In other words, featuring something that is already out there and isn't particularly different from what's already in the field is not in anybody's interest for this technology showcase. That then becomes kind of just a marketing for one company over another, and that's not what the intent of this is. So I think it's really important to showcase a technology application as to why it is a lot better in terms of what it achieves, accomplishes, or what it costs. I mean, if it's half the price of what other similar technologies are out there, that's certainly worth featuring. But take that question very seriously. And then where it's been implemented, I think that's really just a track record. If there's one thing the oil and gas industry does well, it's word of mouth. So if this has already been beta tested with one company, that's going to really, really play well. And then finally, you're asked to given the option to submit up to 2 documents to support the application. So that's just one more chance to to feature something that can enhance the selection committee for taking your application over another. So I think that's that's kind of the summary that I went through there on the applications that are on the Shale Insight website. The deadlines, August 9th, the applications are due. I mean, if this is a technology you've been working with, this is not a difficult application. So I think you still have plenty of time to get those in. And then there's a pretty quick turnaround, a week there, because, applications are coming in, dribbling in even now. But at the latest, that August 9th, and then the committee will turn around its selection within about a week, and giving the presenters who have been selected the heads up that they are being given the chance to present. There's a good lead time of at least a week there for the presenters to give their materials, and that's just to make sure that everything's in good working order in advance of that conference in late September. And then, every presenter will be given kind of what order they'll be in during that time frame I mentioned earlier. So that's kind of the tactical summary of the technology showcase. Why are we talking about it with the Shale Power Project? Well, clearly there's overlapping missions between Shale Power that really wants and is working toward getting manufacturers in this region integrated more fully into the shale industry supply chain. And that really was a lot of what the MSC, what the goal was in putting this technology showcase in place in the first place. Did not necessarily have the geographic mission, but certainly wanted to get companies that were doing really important work to move innovation forward faster, to give them that exposure. So a lot of overlap there. Also the Shale Power Project has some funding that from both the DCED and originally from the Appalachian Regional Commission, to really help companies in this region become successful. So as a result of that mandate, those of us on the webinar here and others are able to assist with applications, and if someone would be selected, help that company really hone its presentation to put its best foot forward. Also, the Shale Power team will be very present at the September conference in Erie. And as in the past, we're in a position to take manufacturers, in particular, the ones featured at the technology showcase, to really show them around the conference, introduce them to potential customers or other stakeholders who could really help them be successful and overall networking in the industry. So I just wanted to finish on this. This is related but not really core to our topic today, but I wanted to also bring to the attention of this audience, there are a number of funding opportunities out there, and a few that are specifically related to what we're talking about today. So companies that are helping to monitor, measure, quantify, reduce emissions. There is a $850 million of total funding with an application deadline later in August. The second item there is related to well plugging. So, I would ask, don't think that you have to do all of this on your own. It would be great to see Southwestern Pennsylvania get a disproportionate amount of some of these federal pots of funding that's still coming out of the IRA and related programs from several years ago. So before we open it up to questions and any conversation, I just wanted to make sure that everyone did have this Shale Insight /schedule/technology showcase. That's where everything you would need in terms of the application sits. Matt Henderson and I are available to support you in this. And Lauren Anderson, who's the lead for this technology showcase for the conference, really engaging, available, accessible, smart guy. Lauren is able to help as well, and I think we got his permission to put his name up there. But that's all I have, and I'll stop sharing my screen, and we'll see if there's any questions in the chat box.
While we're waiting,
go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. I was just saying, while we're waiting for that,
yes,
I wanted to just jump in here real quick. My name is Tom Reed. I'm the program manager for the Shale Power program at Catalyst Connection. And as Katie mentioned, we've worked together for quite a while on these joint efforts, both with the Marcellus Shale Coalition and, of course, with Katie and Matt, to help manufacturers in southwestern Pennsylvania and the greater Appalachian region to get more engaged with the energy supply chains. And of course, in this case, we're talking about the Marcellus Shale, the natural gas. So we are always looking for ways to help manufacturers. So whether you are attending this webinar live or if you're watching the recording, I would encourage you to reach out to us. And if you are thinking about submitting for the showcase or even just attending the conference, we would definitely like to talk to you and see what ways we can be of assistance and maybe make some connections for you at the conference. So just keep that in mind, and I encourage you to visit shalepower.org to see the latest information and find all the contacts that you might need to help you on your journey.
That's great, Tom. Thank you for that. Great conclusion. And I do see in the chat a couple different companies have put their company names up there. And to Terrence Brown and Peter Boccini, I think the next step for you, if what you heard here, is of interest and you'd like to go to that next step, I'll go ahead and give you my email address. We can set up a time to talk. It's KKLABER, Klaber @shalepower.org. And, would love to kind of talk to you with taking this material we've just gone over and applying it specifically to what your technologies are. So
Katie, did you see there was one question in the Q&A section?
Oh, I did not see that.
From Terrence Brown?
Go ahead.
You'd probably be better to answer it than me.
You mentioned the data management pertaining to data centers. Can you speak to that at a high level? Yeah, great question. So, we all know outside of the shale industry, but more more broadly, that we're seeing a real increase in construction of data centers, not just in highly populated areas, but around the country, as not just the Google searches, but the AI technology is demanding more and more of that computing capacity. So a lot of those centers are making their decisions on where they're putting these gas companies, have certainly noticed this and are able at times to provide that power behind the meter. So straight to a data center that, may do its own electric power generation or have, other ways of bringing that. So at a high level, I think this is an area of growth and of interest and of innovation. And so any company that's got either a some way of of changing the dynamic of getting that power to these centers in a more efficient way. Maybe it's with permitting that is that is fast tracked. But specifically to shale power, we're interested in helping those companies that could have new instrumentation, or otherwise, help those data centers be more successful, more cost effective by leveraging natural gas and associated technologies. So I hope that answers your question. I'm by no means an expert on data centers, but it has certainly gotten the attention of the natural gas industry, given how much natural gas is going to create the power for these data centers. Thank you, Tom, for pointing that out.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So thank you again, Katie. I think this is some great information, and we are going to promote this out to some manufacturers who weren't able to join live so that they can learn about this and hopefully if they're interested, submit an application by the deadline.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Matt?